From all corners of the world, from all different time periods, from G.I. Joe to Barbie to the 90s fad of the Beanie Babies. There is no denying that dolls have been a universal staple of many people's childhood. However, despite all the happy childhood memories they contributed to, there is also no denying that dolls have had the strong reputation of being creepy and unsettling, causing many people to feel uncomfortable by them. As a matter of fact, there are as many as over 19 million people in the world who suffer from pediophobia, which is the fear of dolls. However, there lies the question, where does this bizarre fear come from? Why is something that is supposed to be the embodiment of childhood innocence feared by so many people? Well, according to the article, The History of Creepy Dolls, published by the Smithsonian Magazine and written by Linda McRobbie, the creepy feeling one gets when they look at dolls stems from the uncanny valley, which is described as a phenomenon where people feel a sense of unease or revulsion in response to a humanoid object that are realistic. This applies to dolls because they are objects that look and appear to be human, but they are not. They have the ability to make eye contact, however, they are unable to actually express any genuine emotions, giving them the sense of being soulless. This holds a great amount of significance because the human brain heavily relies on the processing of faces to gain information on emotions to be able to detect any potential threats. Therefore, when faced with something like a doll, the brain may have difficulty processing whether or not we should be scared, therefore automatically putting itself on high alert, resulting in this uneasy feeling. Now, although there is a very psychological reason for this feeling of eeriness we have towards our seemingly harmless dollies, the stigma surrounding them has been strongly reinforced due to a long line of horror cinema, with movies such as Child's Play, Puppet Master, Devil Doll, and one of the more recent films, Megan, just to name a few. And all of these films have been fed and influenced for decades by actual cases of allegedly haunted and possessed dolls. Some of the most well-known being Robert the Doll, Letta, Okino, and finally, the topic of today's video, and probably one of the most notorious haunted dolls in history, Annabelle. Hey there everyone, I'm Siegfried, and welcome to my channel. In today's presentation, we will be diving into one of the most well-known cases of an allegedly haunted object in the world of the paranormal, the Annabelle doll. I will give a disclaimer here that if you actually do have a fear of dolls, which we've previously discussed, you might want to sit this one out. Also, before we begin, I do want to apologize for any background noises. As I'm typing this, it is June, it is very hot, and being an older home, I have a window unit installed in my room. And on top of that, I have a senior dog, and he has asthma, so basically that means that I more or less need to have the air conditioner constantly running for it to be comfortable for him to, breathe and exist. But yeah, now with all that being said, and without further ado, let's begin. I'll see y'all at the end. Ciao.
Oh, just what we need around here. Another darn doll. Imagine that.
Unlike in the film by John R. Lanati, the original Annabelle was not a life-size porcelain doll. Much rather, she was actually a life-size Raggedy Ann doll. Raggedy Ann, if you are not familiar with her, is a storybook character and toy doll who has red yarn for hair and a triangle nose, along with her brother and counterpart, Raggedy Andy. She and Andy were created by the author and illustrator, Johnny Gruelle. Both of them were featured in many books for young children over the years, becoming extremely popular and would go on to even feature in their own film. The original owner of the alleged haunted Raggedy Ann doll is said to have been a nursing student by the name of Donna. She and her roommate Angie, a fellow student, shared an apartment not too far away from the hospital the two ladies worked at. It is said that Donna was given the doll as a gift by her mother when she turned 28 in 1970. Some sources say that the mother acquired the doll from an antique shop. However, according to the article on historyversushollywood.com, this particular Raggedy Ann with a calico dress did not predate the 70s. Therefore, it is highly likely the doll was purchased new from either a toy or a hobby store. Now, some people might find it a bit odd that a mother would get a life-size doll as a gift to their 28-year-old child who's in college. However, this really isn't as odd as it seems. Many people, especially ladies, tend to like stuffed animals and dolls in adulthood, which isn't a modern occurrence. Just look at Squishmallows, for example. People have been holding on to bits of their childhood for decades. And as stated before, Raggedy Ann and Andy were very popular children's book characters, especially between the 50s and the 70s. So if Donna grew up reading the books or had her mother read them to her, then more than likely she would have had a sentimental attachment to the characters. Thus, this would have been a good motivation for her mother giving her the doll. Paranormal activity began slowly and subtly. At first, Donna, when she would return home from work, would find the doll in a slightly different position than she had left her before leaving that morning. Either the doll would be on a different side of the bed that she remembered leaving, or the arms and legs would be crossed. Small and simple things that anyone could easily chop up to a faulty memory and dismiss, and think nothing more. However, this did not last long, as things began to escalate quickly. The doll was said to have begun to move from room to room, and Donna, along with Angie, have claimed to have seen the doll standing upright with no support. Baffled by this, the two tried to recreate the pose the doll was in. However, they were unable to. As her name implies, Raggedy Ann is a limp rag doll. Even if she was to be placed up, say next to a wall or piece of furniture for support, she would still not be able to stand due to her body not having any form of structural support, unlike, say, a plastic doll or even a teddy bear. Not only this, but the doll is said to have been life-sized. It was much more top-heavy than a regular-sized Raggedy Ann. However, the activity doesn't stop here. At one point around the same time, it has been said that Donna took the doll to her with breakfast, and she had her sitting at the kitchen table. While Donna and Angie were fixing their morning meals and getting ready for the day, the doll is said to have raised its arms up and placed them on the kitchen table, much like if a small child was patiently waiting for their mother to finish cooking and bring them some breakfast. More and more strange and bizarre happenings went down in the apartment. Next, the two roommates began finding distressing notes throughout their apartment. Notes written on parchment paper, saying creepy and fairly disturbing messages such as, "Help me," "Help us," "Help Lou." And the most bizarre aspect of this was the fact that there was no parchment paper to be found in the apartment. Now, with the mention of Lou brings me to another interesting point in the Annabelle story. Now, I'm not entirely sure where this particularly fits in the timeline. I believe it happened when the other small events, like the doll moving from room to room, were happening. However, as of writing this, I am still a bit unsure, so, please bear with me. Lou, in case you're wondering, was the third roommate in the apartment and one of the girls' fiancés, who I believe to have been Angie. But for some reason, the doll began targeting him in particular because, I don't know, fuck you, Lou. This would have been due to the fact that Lou was very vocal about his dislike for the doll from the beginning, and instead made him feel unsettling and expressed that Donna should just get rid of her. In an interview with Ed Warren, he states that not too long after this, Lou was resting on the couch in the apartment and had a vivid nightmare of the doll trying to choke him, and he woke up to marks around his neck, like if someone has been trying to strangle him. Ed would go on to say that once Lou had woken up from this nightmare, he went up to the doll and picked her up and said, "You can't hurt me, you're just a doll," and then proceeded to toss her. However, immediately after doing this, 7 long scratches appeared, 4 on his chest, and 3 on his belly that bled through his shirt, and is said that the energies miraculously disappeared after a few days. However, other sources say he got the scratches differently. History vs. Hollywood states that he received the energies while studying a map for the road trip he was planning to take with Angie. The pair had heard noises from Donna's room, and when he went to inspect it, he saw the doll sitting in the dark corner of the room. He began to walk towards the doll, but as he did so, he felt like something was behind him, so he turned around and saw no one. It was then when he hunched over in pain, with scratches appearing on his body. I am unsure which source is most accurate. However, if I were to go with one, it would probably be Ed's, since him and his wife Lorraine were the ones who had personal encounters with the victims and investigated the apartment. However, the boiling point finally came when Donna found blood on the doll's hands and chest, and even some sources claimed to be on the face. This, combined with all the other happenings, made the roommates decide to hold a seance with a medium that a fellow co-worker had recommended. The medium would go on to tell Donna and Angie that the doll was possessed by the ghost of a child named Annabelle Higgins. The supposed child was said to have died on the property where the apartments where they lived were built. The cause of death was said to be due to an automobile accident. The medium also went on to say that the ghost wanted to stay and live with Donna and Angie through the doll, stating she wanted to live with them and be loved. However, in order for Annabelle to do so, she needed permission to inhabit the doll, which Donna and Angie both allowed. However, the two of them would go on to regret this decision very soon. Following this, the two girls would begin to treat the doll like an actual child, buying her different outfits and taking her out to town and even putting jewelry on her and speaking to her like she was one of their kids or a younger sibling. However, things would soon take a very sinister turn as the doll would begin to act more violent towards all 3 residents. As a matter of fact, according to many sources, along with Ed Warren himself, it was around this time after the seance that the doll attacked Lou, which would make the most sense since the spirit now had permission to inhabit the doll, granting it the ability to become more aggressive. It did not take long for Donna and Angie to realize the mistake they had made and that Annabelle was not a sweet little ghost girl who liked tea parties and pretty dresses. Out of fear for both her and her roommate's safety, Donna soon contacted an Episcopal priest named Father Hagen to cleanse the house. However, once he had inspected the apartment, he contacted a superior, Father Koch, who immediately got in touch with the paranormal researchers Ed and Lorrain Warren. Ed and Lorrain Warren, if you're not familiar with them, were a married couple who had a very prolific career in the paranormal investigation, with Ed being a self-taught demonologist and Lorraine being a professed clairvoyant and light trance medium. The pair are said to have investigated well over 10,000 cases throughout the years, and would go on to found the New England Society for Psychics in 1952, as well as write many books about paranormal happenings, along with lectures on paranormal and spiritual events. When the Warrens made their way to the apartment, they quickly informed Donna, Angie, and Lou that what they had been dealing with was not the ghost of a child, but a demonic entity. Ed would go on to state that God would never let the soul of a child inhabit a doll or an object like that, and that the entity inhabiting the doll was a devil. As a matter of fact, some parts of the Christian religion states that the living cannot contact the dead at all. When someone is contacting a soul, it is actually a demonic entity mimicking a once living human. The Warrens would go on to inform the 3 tenants that the entity's end goal was human possession. However, it could not progress with this plan until it was able to fully inhabit the house, which it was unable to do unless it was granted permission. This is the reason why it staged itself as a sad little ghost girl, so Donna and Angie would feel sympathetic towards the lost soul and want to help her and make her happy to assist her potentially moving on. After learning the true nature of Annabelle, the Warrens had a priest come perform an exorcism on the apartment, and Donna handed over the troublesome dolly to them. Once the home was cleansed, the doll was removed, no further issue who followed Donna or her friends. However, the malevolent entity was still very much present in the Raggedy Ann and would waste no time becoming violent towards the Warrens. Ed and Lorrain placed and secured her in the back of the seat of the car and began the long drive home. The couple decided to take back roads rather than the highway to avoid traffic and not go over 50 miles an hour to lessen their chances of being in an automobile accident. However, even with all these precautions in place, the Warrens still faced terror from the demonic entity that was just in the back seat of their car, which would result in a few close calls. Throughout their drive, there was issues resulting in them in almost having brake failure, power steering failure, and even engine cutting in and out. All of these resulted in them almost losing control of the car and getting in a fatal accident. Once they had regained control of the vehicle again, Ed had pulled out some holy water from his bag and splashed it on the doll with a prayer. This was successful and was able to keep the entity at bay for a remaining drive home. Once the Warrens were able to get home, they locked Annabelle in Ed's office until they could accommodate a better place for her. However, more paranormal happenings would soon begin again, such as the two finding her levitating in the study and appearing in different parts of the room, like she had done to Donna. A second exorcism was performed on the doll, and the Warrens had a wooden and glass case made which the doll would be associated with and reside in till the modern day. The case had 2 different prayers inscribed onto it, the Lord's Prayer and the Prayer to St. Michael. The case would also have several crosses, rosaries placed around it. Along with this, Ed, up to his death in 2006, was said to recite a binding prayer regularly to ensure the spirit would reside in its prison. Now, even with all these precautions, prayers, and religious objects used to help to keep the spirit at bay, its dark, malevolent force was allegedly still able to breach out at some points. A young priest came by the Warrens Museum to observe the doll for himself. However, once in the presence of it, he picked it up and stated that there was nothing demonic about it, with a good chuckle. Ed told the priest not to mock or hold up Annabelle as to what had previously happened with Lou. However, he had shrugged off Ed's warning and left without a care in the world. But on his way home, the priest would end up in an almost fatal car crash, stating moments before the accident, he looked into the rearview mirror seeing the Raggedy Ann doll in the back seat. Some years later, there was another alleged incident. A young man, accompanied by his girlfriend, was taking a tour of the museum. Once they had arrived at Annabelle's display, the past repeated itself. The young man would verbally dismiss and openly mock the entity, and also allegedly touch the case the doll resided in. The couple was then immediately shown out of the building for disruption. Later that same day, and just like the priest, the two would also be in an accident, only this one would prove to be far more fatal. It is stated that the young man lost control of his motorcycle, which resulted in a head-on collision with a tree, killing him instantly and leaving his girlfriend alive by a thread. The Annabelle doll still currently resides in the Warrens Cult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, and as of now has not caused any fatal or new fatal occurrences. Hey there guys, it's me Siggy again, and thank y'all so much for making it all the way to the end. If you liked my video and you would like to see more like it, consider subscribing to my channel. I will admit I'm in the midst of some slight rebranding. I want my future content to pertain more to creepy and horror related subject matter, with of course some art thrown in there. Speaking of which, if you like the piece I was working on during this video, you can see it on my socials, which I will have listed down below. And of course, y'all are more than welcome to, share your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section, what you thought of the video, what you thought of the story, just remember to be respectful. Well, with all that being said, y'all take care and hopefully you'll hear again from me soon. Bye bye!